Saskatchewan is vulnerable but less exposed to the oil price buffeting now hitting Alberta. But Premier Brad Wall still has his hands full juggling the new oil price realities. He joins us live from relatively balmy Regina. Premier Wall, first off, Keystone's been stopped at the White House door. Your reaction?
Well, disappointed but not surprised. I think the White House was indicating that there would be likely a veto coming, and so certainly we have representation in Washington. There's talk about Capitol Hill responding with perhaps an additional bill or another measure with some other attachments to it that might make it harder to veto. But you know, in the meantime, the facts remain the same. This pipeline will improve North American energy security. The pipeline will ensure that Canadians can get a better value for the resource. And you know, if the oil's not moving by pipeline, as I've said on your program many times before, it's moving by rail. We've seen a huge increase in rail transportation in the United States. The U.S.'s State Department, in analyzing Keystone, has noted that, you know, likely the greenhouse gas emissions could increase without pipelines because the railing of oil comes with a greater GHG footprint. So there's still lots to commend the project to completion, and we'll see what happens next. But this veto was not a particular surprise.
Okay, Premier, you are setting yourself up for a budget. I think it's coming in about 4 weeks or so. Are you getting an idea of what the oil price impact's been on the bottom line?
We are. We're $700 million short, maybe a little bit more than that. So it's significant. And you know, we're working through the finalization of the budget. More meetings even tomorrow. We're going to work hard to make sure that it continues to be balanced. A balanced budget is sort of the cornerstone of our growth plan. That fiscal probity. We have a AAA credit rating from 2 different agencies, and we know that's an indicator of the fiscal health of the province. It also, in the long term, sets up more competitive taxes and money for infrastructure down the road if we don't have to borrow now and worry about paying that off. So a balance is still a priority. And you know, increasingly, Don, there's a delinking between the fiscal state of the province, notwithstanding its importance, and the economy. And so while we see some challenging times in the oil patch, I think you're going to see some pretty positive announcements here soon, large ones on potash. You know, we have a number of indicators here recently on wholesale trade and manufacturing numbers remaining strong as we have this diversified economy. And I think even the Conference Board of Canada today said that our province, again, notwithstanding what's happening in oil, will continue to grow, albeit at a lower rate than we thought, but still growing. And so I think that's attributable to an increasingly diversified economy. And for that, obviously, we're very grateful.
Well, one thing that strikes me is equalization in Canada needs to have provinces or haves and have-nots. A lot more have-not provinces than haves. Your province is a have province. What's happening out there? What's your position on sort of what seems to be a rebalancing of fiscal fortunes in Canada? I mean, you need the money, but it's going to other provinces who are doing, I guess, relatively well.
You know, Don, in Saskatchewan, we're very grateful to have benefited from equalization for a number of years. We're even more grateful now that we don't need those payments, that our economy is strong, and we're no longer in need of receiving those dollars. When we came out of equalization, there was a bit of a lag between probably when it should have happened and when it finally did, because of the way the formula is structured. In other words, arguably we could have been, having a reduction or an elimination of our equalization payments years ago sooner than actually happened. And that lag still exists. So even as we're struggling perhaps on the fiscal side in places like Saskatchewan and Alberta and Newfoundland and Labrador all have provinces, there is this lag where our citizens are still paying into an equalization program and not benefiting from it, when countries that are now experiencing, or provinces certainly within the country that are experiencing some strength, and something, by the way, that's good for Canada. We support the fact that those economies are getting stronger. They're still receiving the benefits. So it worked in our favor when we came out of equalization. The lag still exists now, but by and large, we are grateful to have received the support of the country when we needed it, and we're even more grateful to be contributing now as a have province.
Okay, no worries about that. Final question, if I could ask you. The Fraser Institute did come out today and said Saskatchewan's the best place to do mining anywhere in Canada, one of the best in the world. What's your secret?
Well, we've tried to make sure the regulatory regime that we have in the province, Don, balances the environmental concerns that we all have with a healthy climate for investment. And I think we've struck that balance. We've moved to an environmental code. That's a change our government's made to ensure we're protecting the environment, but to ensure clarity and consistency and stability in the environmental regulatory regime for companies investing. We've worked hard to make sure that our royalty structure is competitive. Very recently, we made some changes on the uranium side, and more changes required. We have very high uranium royalty structures here in the province, and those are now coming down. We're working hard to open, as you know, the market in India to Saskatchewan and Canadian uranium. That's already happened in the case of China with the support of the Prime Minister. So a combination of royalty structures, our taxation system, and making sure the environmental regulations we have protect the environment but don't unduly burden companies that want to create new jobs here. I think those have combined to give us this advantage where we were grateful to see this report out today that we're the #1 jurisdiction for mining investment. This is important in our economy, not just because it speaks to diversification. We have mining sector as well as oil and agriculture strong and increasingly manufacturing. But in the case of mining, and specifically uranium mining, and I'm going to talk about Cameco here very briefly, the world's largest uranium mining company headquartered in Saskatoon, over 40% of their workforce is First Nations or Métis people. Maybe one of the strongest records in this respect of any company in the country. And so the mining sector is important in so many areas, but especially in this area of employment and a more distributive employment benefit to all the people in the province.
Okay. I appreciate talking to you, Brett. Well, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
All right. After